Please welcome Christopher Nolan and Ridley Scott.
Thank you. So thank you all for coming. What did you think of the movie? Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you for being the DGA to see this movie, which more than so many others just really needs to be seen on a great screen like this. And this is a phenomenal room, one of my favorites. And so please join me in welcoming Sir Ridley Scott.
Can't see a thing. I can't see a thing. I see it now. Full house. Great. That's good. Good song.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's get straight into it. After the first Gladiator, obviously it's a long time since that film. Were there a lot of attempts to make a sequel, to follow on from that story over the years, or is this something that came into focus later on?
It's 17 films since the first Gladiator, so I wasn't sitting about worrying about making Gladiator 2. So I'll be polite and say there was a couple of attempts, and we had a real go with a friend of mine, a writer, who said, I don't think I can do it. I can't cope. He tried and it didn't work. So we just let it go. And then I felt that you have to, when a film starts a life of its own, it has a good reaction, a good box office, then they fade away and end up on a shelf somewhere. So I'm serious. So thank God for all the platforms. Every one of these films, I can press a button and see my first film I ever did 40 years ago. I can watch The Duelist tonight, and it looks even more beautiful when I made it. So I think thanks to the platforms, the film evolves a life of its own. So you have to do something. It's healthy, it's good.
Yeah, and obviously you revisited the world of Alien a couple of times, starting with Prometheus. That's the same feeling of you created a world, it evolved with the audience. What's your approach to script that you don't write yourself? So you're working with a writer. Are you pitching ideas yourself? Or are you waiting for somebody to pitch you what it could be?
Well, one of the things I can't do is write. But I'm a pain in the ass with writers because I know where the milestones are. I know where the body should be buried and when I'm sagging, right? So, and the best experience I've ever had, funny, for my entire career, was working with a guy called Hampton Fancher, because I came out to do a film, a script he wrote called Blade Runner. And the film was a very enclosed, tight play inside an apartment where the hunter had fallen in love with his quarry. But the cadence of his dialogue was so beautiful, I said, okay, I'll do it. And we came out, and it began, we met 5 months, 7 days a week, completely reopening up the entire play. So I'd hack in my visuals, and he would go, oh, Christ, I thought we settled that yesterday. And he said, okay, that's pretty good. So it was this constant toing and froing. So in a funny kind of way, he set me on fire, and I may have set him on fire. So if you can do that as a director, try and work with the writer as much as possible.
Right.
Writers aren't going to like that. Any writers go, then yeah.
Well, I will say the last time I had the honor of being on this stage with you was a long time ago. And you were talking about Black Hawk Down, and I was eagerly listening to everything you said. And one of the things you talked about at the time is you talked about the sort of first 10 movies you'd made in about 20 years. And you looked at that and you said, whilst that's not, I remember it very clearly, whilst that's not inordinately slow, you have more stories to tell, you wanted to pick up the pace, you wanted to go faster. And ever since then, you have made an incredible body of work in a relatively short amount of time. Is that what fires you now in terms of focusing on a project, really getting into it?
When you begin, you want 40 things in development, and that's not smart. If you can, as you go wiser, you have maybe 2 or 3 in development that you're really going to make. Otherwise, you can spin a lot of wheels and waste a lot of time. So when I began, I didn't start until I'm 40 years old. I never made a movie until I'm 40, because I had a very successful advertising career. And at 38, I realized, Christ, I'm never going to make a movie. I better get going. So from that, we got into it, and I paid for was the bond and didn't get a fee, and I made a film called Duelist.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paramount. No fee, and I was the bond.
And that was Paramount. Yes, that's right.
And then, you evolve, and suddenly you get more decisive. It takes a while. You get more decisive.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this. I'll never do that. It cut the fat away and get to the mean.
Right, right. So I would have thought, in looking at revisiting a classic like Gladiator, a huge thing weighing over that must have been, it's 20 years later, so it's not Russell Crowe. Yeah. So who's going to don that armor? Who's going to take center stage? How was that process for you, finding Paul, figuring out how to move on from Russell?
I think a director's job, there's several ways the director goes at the fence approaching, right, the high jump or the low jump. And I am not a director who believes in Svengali. I believe I got to cast really well. If I can, and I found I'm pretty good at casting. And most of it is intuition, or they walk through the door, haven't spoken, you're immediately interested or not. And so the casting process for me is essential. And once I'm getting near to where I want to be, I will then make that person my friend, and we become partners in the process. So when I hit the film running, they become a partner. So the actor, actress, I encourage to say whatever they think. But God help you if you don't know what to do by the time you hit the floor, because I've got 11 cameras all waiting. But I see, I tend to, I need a bedtime story, so I'll probably go back right now and watch a movie. And I tend to watch incomers, not outgoers or big ones. Because I'm looking for new blood. And I watched some Irish show, which is not my kind of thing I would normally watch, called Normal People. In there, I thought, who's this? Both were great. Both Paul and the gal were terrific. And so I was fully engaged. So I binged on 8 hours. At the end of it, I thought, this guy could be. That's it. And when you get at my point, I can kind of be quite strong in the studio saying, this is it.
Yeah, I think Paul's incredible in the movie, and obviously he's put in some amazing performances in the last few years. So I think you definitely had excellent instincts when it came to that. Obviously with Denzel, you've worked with him before in American Gangster. He's an incredible presence in the film. Just secured a Golden Globe nomination, I saw. You famously have said, and you just alluded to it, that casting is so important to you, finding the right people and then having them come with the text. Now, my feeling watching the film is that Denzel, there has to have been an element of improvisation, or he feels very much like he's in control. His energy is controlling the scenes.
Well, 11 cameras, or it usually is minimum 4, can grow to 11. We'll walk and we'll position them around the arena or the set or whatever it is, because in a way. And an actor asked me this. I said, I think I've got a good answer. Because I said, you're from the boards, you're from the theater. She said, right. I said, so when you're in theater, every evening you're standing behind a curtain on the side, you're staring across the stage at somebody across the stage with a walkie-talkie who's going, and then says, on. You're walking onto the boards all by yourself. From that moment, you're on your own, dude. So, and in that respect, that's why they love the theater, because they are never stopped. You can't stop in the theater, and if you make a mistake, you've got to improvise. So I like having almost a stage of each scene. Each scene is a play, right. And if there's a happy mistake, or if not, there's a sense of freedom, and they just relax and just do it. And I found there's a natural process, there's a naturalism comes out of that. Because I think Denzel, funny enough, was amazed at the scale of things. It was interesting because is Denzel here tonight? Oh, he's not, right? So Denzel, I think, was actually nervous. But from that came something great.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So to ask you about your approach to filming, when you started, very famously on Blade Runner, you used to like to operate camera yourself, handheld, sometimes always, and at some point, I'm curious to whether it's a particular thing you can pinpoint, you shifted over to a multi-camera approach, far different from the single camera. Was there a specific moment that happened, or a technological breakthrough with that, or was it just an evolution in how you work?
I learned everything from doing commercials. Commercials was my school. And in commercial, I learned very early on, and I started a company when I was 25, 26, and we became very prolific, and I started to have a stable of other directors. So I discovered it's more efficient for me walk in the morning, the camera on my shoulder, saying first AD and the cameraman are the most efficient, fastest engine on the floor. So my first AD was my best man, and we would just line it all up fast. So in those days, I'd be doing 100 commercials a year personally. And so that speed came out of commercial advertising. And from that carried the one camera thing right through Duelist, Alien, and I wasn't allowed to operate camera in the United States for Blade Runner, but I got a wonderful cameraman and his team. So we had a spectacular result of that. Then I went back to England, and I then shot Legend. I resumed as an operator, but on single camera for a while until the video assist evolved through the viewfinder. You could see what the guy was doing. So then I had 2 cameras you could see, 2 monitors. So I stopped. And so it's 4 cameras is 4 monitors. 11 cameras is 11 monitors.
Right.
So I'm sitting there cutting the scene in the monitor.
So when would that have been? Sort of late 80s, a Black Rain kind of era? Or?
Yeah, the Black Rain was serious, because if I hadn't, I'd still be shooting Black Rain. So it was 11 cameras where we went to war every day with 8 helicopters, 125 troops, and 1,700 people, local people, all in flip-flops and robes, and everyone could use an Uzi or from Sierra Leone or wherever. It was fantastic. I was at war.
Yeah, fantastic. So with this film, you've revisited some locations you shot before. You shot Malta before, you shot Morocco before. How's that? I mean, that obviously that familiarity must help.
Places you keep going back to. I've shot 4 times in Morocco and 3 times in Malta, actually. Malta is a treasure trove of architecture. I wouldn't advise going there on holiday, and no Maltese in the area. I would not go back there on holiday. But the architecture goes from medieval right through to Renaissance. And when it's good, it's spectacular. So I've always found new things and new spaces. And on top of that, there's a footpad, a huge area on the top where you saw tonight. So that Colosseum, those arches, those palaces on green screen, we built it. Because I realized that actually if you build the set and you know what you're doing, it's cheaper than blue screen. Otherwise, every shot has got money in it that you hadn't allowed for. And so all of that was built. The fringes were added to and topped up a little bit, but fundamentally it was all built. Thank you, Arthur Max. It's Arthur Max, not you.
And Arthur Max, he worked in Morocco with you on Kingdom of Heaven. And you revisited some of the same areas and some of those same places you shot there, I think.
Well, I built Jerusalem. We built Jerusalem, and that set was 1,000 feet long, with 45-foot high walls and 12-foot deep at the top.
Yeah.
And we built it so sturdily that when I left, I had to take it down. So I said, "It's going to cost me $300,000 to take it down, pack, strike it. You want to buy it?" And I said, "I'll sell it to you for $50, but when I do, you take over all the responsibility of this set." So they agreed. Ironically, when I go back on this Gladiator, I have to rent my own set for $1 million. So they got the last laugh. You have the face of a thief.
So with the, as you develop the multi-camera approach, I mean, obviously for a long time, you've been famed for the beauty of your visual approach. Started as a painter at the Royal College of Art. With a single camera approach, I mean, famously, I remember reading Adrian Biddle, who shot a couple of movies with, as DP, saying, well, I just set a few lights and go off to lunch, because really he knows exactly what he wants to do. He was being modest, obviously. But the question is, that meticulousness that you developed for lighting, for the mise en scène, for capturing that beauty in the frame, how do you evolve that to, I mean, I saw in the credits that it goes down to H camera, A through H. How are you making these beautiful images from so many angles at the same time. What's your approach to lighting?
Well, we're being lit now with one key light. We're keyed, okay? And so if I want, I can go behind you and have you backlit, or come around here and have you frontlit. I'm thinking through that geometry as to how I'll cut it together. Right. And so when it becomes a movement in the room, I'm always thinking of the key position. I think it comes from you as a designer and a painter. But when you apply, my gift is my eye. So when I apply my eye to a camera and see what is happening, I'm now seeing through monitors. There's no compromises. You simply use a front light, or you use and you keep moving it around, and you need to storyboard everything. So a storyboard for Napoleon is this thick, right? And the one for a gladiator is about the same. So, but I draw literally wide shots, location you haven't seen yet. But I thought it's going to be roughly like this: medium shots, wide shots, close-ups, 2 shots. And literally, I'm doing the scene on paper before I get there. Now, right. That doesn't take away from any cameraman, because all the cameramen I work with have to deal with that. And it's not as difficult as you think. Because if you work with just a beautiful key light, then if it's a front lights can be useful. And you just, I don't know how to do it actually, but I do.
That's probably the more honest
There's
answer.
no formula to it, that's the point. And you know, Biddle was my loader, my focus puller. It was my focus puller on Alien, Adrian Biddle.
Oh, wow.
And Alien was all handheld because the corridors were so narrow. Right. And there was lots of metal struts and things. So Adrian became my cushion when I'd run backwards. We had to run into things. So, and he's trying to focus puller. Then Adrian did Thelma and Louise for me as a cameraman. It was beautiful. And then we then did a big film that isn't seen very much, but I think it's a terrific film. It's with Gerard Depardieu. It's 1492 Conquest of Paradise. Yeah. And it's so ambitious. We shot in Costa Rica. We built Isabella. We built 3 caravels. We sailed them across the goddamn Atlantic. And Adrian Biddle was the cameraman on all of this. And it is his most spectacular work.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. If anyone hasn't seen it. How would you describe your approach to world building then? I mean, obviously, the lavishness of the detail in Gladiator, the way it builds on the original but expands that world. There's so much more of everything, more spectacle, more. I mean, the costumes, the detail, all of these things that Janet Yates doing, that Arthur Mack's doing. How do you begin with that? What's pre-production like? What are you sitting here in the room talking about? What are you challenging them?
It's a corporation. So I'm running a corporation because a unit of this size, we did this in 51 days, which is worth knowing. And so it's unbelievable. You are running a corporation that's 1,200 personnel. And on the 1,200 personnel, there's 40 HODs. So Monday mornings on lead-in, early on, we have a script now. Go page 1, got a problem? No problem. Page 2, problem, what's your problem? Have you talked to him? No. Well, bloody talk to him. Page 3. You can't work as if talk to Janty. So that's what happens. And so I try to make it fun and competitive. But the key is people must talk to each other. Right. They don't. They try and keep it to themselves and try and fix the problem. So all you do is ask him, he'll tell you.
Right. Excellent. And then as you get into production, closer to production, you're prepping this. I mean, how many countries you shoot in? You shot 3 different countries. You're all over the place. How are you coping with being spread that thin with thousands of extras, with all of the costumes have to be shipped everywhere? I mean, all of those things going on. Where are you when that's happening? Where do you prep from? All over the world.
Yeah, well, what I find today is great. Technology, and editors will love to hear this, and so will mixers will love to hear this. I will not sit in an editor's room behind him saying, make the bloody cut. I leave them to it. So once I start, they're shipped 11 cameras worth of material every day. And she has, and Claire Simpson I work with right now, which is fantastic. And Sam Restiville, who's is an editor really, but kind of You might call them assistant, but barely. And they just simply loop all this together and say, I'll come in Saturday morning if we're not shooting, or Sunday. I'll go and see where they are. And so what I'm doing is already distancing myself from what I've done deliberately, but I want to connect with what we did and how was a certain performance going. And so I'll do that once a week. So by the time we get to the end of principal photography, I'm frequently looking at the director's cut within a month. I'm looking at director's cut. So then you can get really detailed in your construction. But I know I've got it all by then. Same with the mix. You sit in a mixing theater, unless it's something really special like Blade Runner, sat in the mixing theater forever. It was designing sounds. But on, say, something like Gladiator, you don't want to be sitting in that room while they mix. All it does is get louder. And your ear turns inward and you think, is that loud enough? And so I separate and they say, we've got a reel, come and have a look. I'll go and I'll go that, and that, and they go, okay, and they go and then they fix it. So that becomes very efficient, which enables me to move on to the next one.
Well, which, as we're getting towards the end here, brings me to the question I always hate being asked and never answer, but I'm going to put it to you anyway, which is, do you know what's next, and can you tell us anything about it?
Yeah, it's a very good book called Dog Star, which is adapted very nicely into, and you're going to say, not another one of those, okay, but it is another one of those. It is fundamentally the end of a world, but it's an epic environment with 5 people, and it's how you deal with where you're going and how entities become tribal immediately. Peter Watkins, this guy's at BBC. I revered him. I was a designer. I hated him because he was a director. He did a marvelous documentary called War Games.
Oh.
And in War Games, BBC closed it down, would not run it for almost 5 years. Because in it was a handbook which said the government handbook issued in the light of a 1 megaton bomb being dropped on Piccadilly.
Right.
And in that, it said the conditions will be medieval within 5 weeks. So I've got my bow and arrow, I've got my guns.
Yeah. And off you go. I'm sure everyone here is waiting to see it, as we are always waiting to see everything you do. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and thank you for all your incredible work that's inspired us all for so long.
I want to thank this man for being so generous at doing this tonight. I didn't know this was going to happen. He's one of the greats. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Thank you.